You're listening to the Jōrni Podcast. Could disease prevention actually start with awareness rather than lab tests? Stay tuned for a groundbreaking episode. This episode contains adult subject matter, and some listeners may be triggered by this content. Listener discretion is advised. Hi, I'm Petra Brunbauer, and with decades of experience with sadness, pain, anxiety, and stress, I finally figured out how to leave all that behind. And this podcast shows you how to break free permanently so you can reclaim your sanity and find the self-esteem and energy to go after the life you desire. With real talk about mental health, holistic healing, and the tough journey of coming out the other end. This is the Jōrni Podcast. Welcome to today's episode. The best checkup you can have might actually be the one you give yourself. Labs can be inaccurate, supplements are often contaminated, and spending thousands on tests might not tell you what a simple, honest assessment of your own life already can. Dr. Donese Worden is renowned for her fearless pursuit of truth in medicine. Never one to shy away from challenging the status quo, she has built a career on questioning outdated systems, advocating for patient-centric healthcare, and pioneering integrative medicine solutions. An award-winning physician, researcher, entrepreneur, and global speaker, Dr. Worden's 2 decades of experience uniquely position her to bridge the gap between conventional and advanced alternative medicine. Her commitment to transforming healthcare ensures she will be a revolutionary force in shaping the future of America's health. Here is my interview with Dr. Donese Worden. Hi, Dr. Worden. It's so great to have you on the podcast today. I've been looking forward to getting to chat with you because the 7 pillars of health, I feel, is going to be a fantastic topic to talk about. Everybody is always worried about their health, so I love having your perspective on the podcast today. Welcome to the podcast.
Oh, I'm so happy to be here. Your energy and you are just wonderful. So I'm sure we'll hopefully be able to bring some good information to your listeners.
Yes, absolutely. I look forward to it. And for starters, could you share a little bit about yourself and maybe the pieces of your journey or your story that you feel connect to what you do today, and let our listeners know as well what it is that you do today?
I'm a physician, an integrative physician, so I'm licensed in kind of both systems of medicine, conventional and alternative. I've done that for 27 years. And I'm a researcher. I'm a published researcher. And I have a research company because I'm about the truth in medicine and what we know and what we don't know. I'm about cleaning up the health and wellness industry because a lot of the supplements are contaminated and misadulterated. So I'm really on a mission of what's truthful out there for people. And that comes from, I was in media. I had my own talk shows and was a newscaster for NBC before medicine. So now I've had 27 years of clinical practice and research. Now I've got enough information to say, I've got something important to say. And hopefully answering questions for people or enlightening them on all the things that we don't know in medicine and in health, and the things that we do know that they need to hear about that might be new to them.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. What a wealth of wisdom you're bringing here today. And I feel our health is one of those things that can be so confusing to navigate, to find answers. There's stuff available really on the internet and forums. We never know what works, what doesn't work, what's true, what's not true. So I feel this is really one of these topics where listeners could have 20 paths available to them and get stuck doing nothing because it's just so hard to determine the answer. Thank you for bringing this wisdom here and sharing that with us today. And I see that you have developed a questionnaire that can, I'm guessing, get listeners started on maybe exploring their health a little bit more. Do you want to share with us what that is all about?
Sure. The reason why I like doing this on a podcast or when I give speeches is that we have all these tests that people can do. They're hearing all this information. To your point, Who do I trust? What's real? What's not? And I say the best doctor and the best pharmacy in the world is your own body. What we produce, the chemicals, molecules that we produce is the right dosage at the right time, no side effects. So what are the things that we can always tap into to get your inner pharmacy going? Plus, the labs have a lot of issues with them, especially the specialty labs. Sometimes we spend a lot of money. Maybe somebody does a microbiome test or a food sensitivity, and the food's not the food. The lab isn't accurate. That means if you sent your same sample out the same day, it better come back looking like the same thing. And many times they don't. They're not reproducible. And so I say the best checkup you'll ever have is the one you do yourself. And that's why I developed the 7 pillars, and it's fun. And if you want, we'll go through it, and your listeners and you can go through it. And I just tell everybody, get ready to either write down or put in your phone these pillars, and you're going to rate yourself from 1 to 10. And you've got to be honest. You got to be honest with yourself and not say, I could be better. I know where you are right now. So write down these 7 words. It's sleep, body, BM, energy, mental, relationships, and spiritual. And I'll be describing each of these sections, and you're going to be rating yourself on a scale of 1 to 10. So let's start with sleep. If you say, I'm wearing my wearable and it says, and blah, 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 I'll just let you know right now, the wearables aren't 100%. In fact, for sleep, maybe certain ones, like certain rings, only have 75% accuracy. And they're really having trouble with women because of our cycles. So we can't just rely on wearables. So sleep, how much sleep are you getting? You could look for your REM sleep, deep sleep. But what I'm after is, how do you feel? How do you think you did? So you would rate yourself a 1 if you can't get to sleep. You just lay there and can't get to sleep, or you can't stay asleep. You're waking up during the night. A 10 would be you wake up ready to go, wake up without an alarm, ready to go, same time every day, 8 hours of sleep, deep restorative sleep, and you continue to have energy throughout your day. So write down your score. Next one is your body. I'm not talking about weight and physique. It's beyond that. It's not really a stat. I'm asking, how are you happy with your body right now? Now, if you're not built to look like a 6'2" model, you're never going to be a 6'2" model. But a 1 would be, do you feel weak and do you feel flabby? There are soft, skinny people, right? They're skinny but soft. Do you not have enough muscle mass and you don't like looking in the mirror and you feel weak? That would be a 1. A 10 is, you love your body, you're grateful for it, it's working well, no aches and pains, everything's working, and you are taking good care of it. You're going to the gym, you're working out, you're doing your walking, your stretches, you're literally spending time with your body, taking care of it. That would be a 10. So BM stands for bowel movement, so there's no confusion. And I'm going to talk about your poop. And I know at different places in the world, even in America, nobody wants to talk about it, but we're going to talk about it because it's very important. It's one of the best health predictors that you can see and look at to know how things are going. So a normal bowel movement is the length from your wrist to your elbow. Now, a lot of women are going, what? That's a normal length, and normal in the middle of it, the log, it should be a soft log, easily passed, medium brown color. And in the middle, it should be about as big around as your wrist. And it doesn't smell bad unless you eat something like asparagus, right? It really shouldn't smell bad, and it easily passed. So let's talk about rating that. A 1 with got a really stinky poo or a gooey poo. Or it's not formed. It's cow patties or diarrhea or rabbit pellets, those little small hard ones. Or you're just not going every day. You're literally constipated, not going. Number 10 is you look back, and you should be analyzing your poop. Some people say, I don't look. And I say, you need to start looking. You need to know what's happening in your digestion. So when a 10 would be, you look back and you go, wow, I wish I should tell somebody about this, or somebody, you're just like proud of it and you feel good. You feel detoxed and great. So that, and it's every day for the most part, the way I described it. Energy. That means getting ready to go in the morning without your coffee. In fact, you're supposed to wait an hour after waking up to have caffeine anyway, for it to do the good things for you and not affect your adrenal glands and your circadian rhythm. So get up in the morning and go an hour before you want to have your coffee, and you're not crashing in the afternoon, right? Or the end of the day. You're not crashing. A 1 is you're waking up really tired, just energy's just not there. And then you're tired all day. And then you can't even get to sleep at night because we call it wired and tired. You're so tired, but you're still wired up, brain's still going, the crazy brain, and you can't get to sleep. That is a really detrimental sleep cycle. And a 10 energy is like my 92-year-old dad. Tomorrow is his birthday. He golfs 18 holes, 4 days a week. He goes to the gym and lifts weight and works out probably 4 or 5 times a week. And he dances most nights. Now, does he do everything he used to do when he was younger? Probably not as quickly, but he's doing them. He's getting in and out of my soft shell hyperbaric chamber by himself. That's the way and the energy we're supposed to have. And he got caught skinny dipping at 88 years old because they forgot their swimsuits. That's good energy, right? That's what we want. When people say, oh, I'm just getting older and it's just part of getting older, I go, no, that is never an excuse. That's good energy. Next one, mental state. Are you clear? How's your cognition? Or you can analyze things. How's your focus? Can you sit and focus on something? How's your memory? Are you having trouble with word retrieval? Oh, can't think of that name. Can't think of that word. Forgetting where you parked your car once in a while because you weren't paying attention or where you put your keys, that's normal. But if you're noticing that you're having trouble with your short-term or long-term memory and having to work hard, brain's having to work hard, that's something that you need to pay attention to. So scale of 1 to 10, and a 10 would be your brain is wiring and firing. You're doing everything you want to do. You can read, cognition, your memory's there. Your speech is good. That's all there. It's not saying, oh, my family has Alzheimer's. I'm worried about that. I forgot something the other day. Is that? I'm not talking about that. This is day to day, day to day. How do you feel? Is your brain wiring and firing with you? And the last two may be two of the most important, Petra, because without these, you can be doing all the biohacks, all the right things, and still not be happy and healthy. So relationships is looking, do you have a strong people around you, family, friends, colleagues, and having intimacy. You don't have to have a partner to be intimate. We are sexual beings, and we should be enjoying and exploring those parts of us that allow us to have that experience. So without intimacy, no family, no friends and colleagues, and that's when that would be a 1. But a 10, pretty easy. You got a great tribe around you and you're having great sex. Pretty simple. That's a 10. And the last one is spiritual health. And it's not about religion. It's not about any of that. It is about, do you feel connected? And do you feel a deep sense of gratitude and serenity that you can, in a moment, take a breath and get there? That you have a process, either listening to music, prayer, meditation, breath work, walking in nature, something where you can really feel connected. A 1 is there's just no connection. You feel alone and you wonder if it's all worth it. That's a 1. And a 10 is really that ability to feel that sense of peace and feel connected to something outside of yourself, so that no matter what challenges come your way that are coming in your life, that you can turn to that in a moment and feel peace. And we talk a lot about this with my cancer patients, especially the stage 4 patients, is finding that connection, because that brings strength for their body and their own pharmacy. And that allows them to really understand their connectedness. And I will tell you that the patients that thrive, not just survive cancer, but thrive, they will tell you that it's the best thing that ever happened to them. Getting cancer was the best thing that ever happened to them, because it woke them up to what's important, really important, and who they are outside of being a mother or a father or aunt or a CEO. Who are they? Who are they? It gives them a chance to explore that. If you die suddenly from a car accident, you don't get to explore those things as much. When you have something facing you that looks like it could be the cause of your death, if you do it right, you start digging into these things. And when you do, and you know who you are, and you've lost the fear of death and the fear of cancer or whatever it is that you're struggling with, when that goes away and you know it's all okay no matter what, that's when we see spontaneous remissions, that things that medical medicine can't explain. So this checkup once a month, I say, go to your lowest score. Where's your lowest number? You probably already know what you should be or could be doing to make that better. If you don't, keep watching Petra's podcast, watch other people's podcasts that you trust, their knowledge. And if not, then find a physician that's integrative, that really works in the wellness side, not just the medical side, so you can get some guidance on what are the things that could be done. And I give whole workshops on this. We could spend a day on each one of those, but it's not about doing a lot of testing, expensive testing, because we talked about, remember, sometimes they may not be as accurate as we think. We still want some tests. It's good to do it, but it's really, how do you feel? Because wearables now are telling women that they have a score, that their readiness score, and it's not accurate for women. They're waking up going, I feel good. I think I want to go to the gym, but this is telling me I really probably should take it easy. I'm just saying, listen to your body. Listen to your body. It's giving you the signals that you need. And don't shut off the fire alarm by taking a bunch of stuff. And stacking isn't science, taking a lot of things. You don't want to shut off a fire alarm and keep the fire raging. You need to know why you're having symptoms. Why is it happening? Why do you have that number that's lower than a 10? So that's it. And I would ask people to commit for 30 days. Well, it's about the time of year to start saying, what do we want to do for the next year? And most people within 14 days, it's out the door. They're not doing it. But if you could pick one thing, one area, one of those pillars to work on, then you work on the next one and then the next. And then someday you're at 9s and 10s all the way across.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing this resource. And I've been putting numbers as we were going, and I have some work to do. I think in some of these
most
pillars.
People do. Most people do. I would say if you're under a 5, you really need to pay attention. Before there's a disease that now you get a symptom you can't ignore, you go to the doctor and then you've got something that's harder to deal with. So pay attention. Your body is sending you the signals. It's telling you.
Yeah. I feel like you're really empowering us to look at our own innate wisdom and our body's wisdom and really just listen in, which is something that I think we've often been taught to ignore, this culture of pushing through and, oh, you just need to get through this, or just go sleep deprived for another few days, you'll get it done. This kind of culture, which is really contrary to our own inner wisdom that our body has and that ability to heal. So I'm very glad that you're putting that out there and saying, listen
our
in.
body heals when we're in a relaxed state. It cannot, and it does not turn on or do those healing things when we're in survival mode, running from a bear. Stress, it can't do it. So if you've got a lot of those numbers low, that are the physical ones, then I'll bet it's stress is the number one thing, or how you're handling it.
That makes a lot of sense. That affects our digestion, our sleep, our happiness, our energy, mental health. So all across the board. Yeah, absolutely. And Dr. Worden, where do you see this going? So if people have these pillars, they're reading their numbers, they're finding they're consistently low, maybe on even 1 or 2 or 3 pillars. In your practice, how does that play out in the future? How does this affect us? Now, I understand that cancer, of course, is one of those big things that we sometimes have to deal with, and that's life-changing. Are there any other things that you see, I want to say more frequently or consistently, with people that have expressed to you that their pillars have been low for some time?
Yeah, it expresses every chronic degenerative disease. That's heart disease, that's cancer, it's obesity, it's diabetes, it's neurological diseases. Parkinson's is probably one of the fastest growing neurological diseases out there, MS, all that. But if we look back, a lot of them, and people will say the symptoms started or they started noticing it during a time of stress. And most cancer patients will say it was after I got a divorce or after my son died or some event. That's when the immune system is down and some of these things can happen. So I want to know the contributing factor. Was it one main thing? But it's every day. What are you putting in your body? Are you not exercising? All the things that we know the body needs. Then you need to ask yourself, why am I not? Why am I not? And if say you don't have time to exercise, interval training is better than hours on the treadmill, and you can do 4 hours of interval training, 4 minutes, 4 minutes of interval training 3 times a week beats hours on the treadmill. So yes, you do have time. That's not an excuse anymore. We can, and we should be spending time checking in with ourselves and doing this. So when patients come to me, whether they're a professional athlete or they have stage 4 terminal cancer, they're treated the same, Petra, in the sense of how I'm going to work with them, how we're going to look at all the causes and all the contributing factors and what are the best treatments. And because I'm a researcher, I'm a published research in oncology and glioblastomas, brain tumors. So I know cancer fairly well, is that everybody's different. Everyone needs a different program. My thing is why is it there to start with? We may not be able to go back and fix that, but at least we're not continuing the same things that might have contributed to start with. Some things we get super healthy people. They're doing everything right and they're getting these diseases. But I will tell you, some of the most stressed people I know are biohackers. And I laugh and I said, you're a biohacker. You're testing everything. You're wearing it and you're charting everything. And, oh, I got to try this. Somebody said about that. They saw some influencers say this, and I need to start that. They're stacking their supplements. Now they're on 90 supplements a day. All these things, which have no science behind it and can have real detrimental effects. And more is not better. And it's discovering, knowing where your true symptoms are, because people may come into me, Petra, and say, I'm coming because I'm constipated, I got a digestive issue. Let's figure that out. And then I start talking, and then I say, oh, they got a real sleep issue that's probably worse than the constipation. So when you look at all of it, like we just did a snapshot today, there's usually a hierarchy. And if you get to this top one up here, a lot of things down below get better. The brain-gut connection. That's why your stomach hurts when you're upset. And if your tummy is upset, you've got microbiome or dysbiosis, all kinds of things there. It's going to affect your brain because serotonin and oxytocin, those are very important brain chemicals for us to feel happy and rewarded. You can't make them if the gut's not in good shape. They're made in the gut, not in the brain. So everything's connected. And I will tell you that if you keep asking why do you have that symptom? We'll say because of this. And I said, but why do you have that? It's because of it, but why is that there? And if I just keep asking why, it usually comes down to some kind of an emotional issue. And I'm not saying it's all in our heads. I am saying that there's a strong connection between this and our heart, what we're feeling and doing, and our body. And that's well known.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's probably also why, as you said, a lot of these things happen after we have these very intense and charged emotional experiences, because there is something that happens in our body. And same, I think, also has been studied with trauma and stress, how that affects us on all levels. Absolutely.
And continuing stress is just as bad as a dramatic big stress. Our body can't heal when it's in stress because the body's saying, I'm being told there's a bear and I need to be in survival mode. It's being smart. It says, do I need to repair? Do I need to heal? Do I need to fight an infection or cancer? No, I don't need to do that right now because I have to run from this bear. And it doesn't know the difference between an actual bear and your mother-in-law coming to dinner. It just knows that you're telling it, oh, this, and it can't heal well in that state. It just can't. Taking that time, that community, the relationship, the spiritual connections, very important to our overall health. Patients that thrive their cancer and survive, not just survive it, but thrive it, they literally have come to a really good place of that they're not afraid and they're taking care of the body. They're knowing they're doing what they need to do, but they're not stressing about having to do everything that they could possibly hear or heard of that could do it. I have Les Brown, I can say he's a patient of mine, and we're thinking of a podcast together called Hungry for Health to put these fads on the exam table and really look at them from peptides, stem cells, all of it. What do we really know and what could be harmful? So it's funny because Les would be texting me in the middle of the night. He's in Atlanta, I'm in Arizona, and it'd be 2 or 3 in the morning. I hear this going off, and I have my phone on at night for emergencies. And it was Les, and some influencer had said something about here's what you do for cancer. And he would text it to me. I'm like, Les, this has no scientific backing behind it, no rationale. Say it's your opinion. I'm okay with that. But don't tell me there's science when there's not. Finally, that's when we said, all right, he said, we got to do a podcast on this and put these things on the exam table because people don't know who to listen to. So anyway, that's another thing on the list to do.
Yeah, I think that's really great, actually debunking some of these things that are floating around out there. And I want to ask you on that note. So we have these pillars and people are probably checking their lists right now and writing down some numbers and going through their lives. I'm wondering how much of this is really what we do in every day and how much of this is our DNA, or let's say some people might say predestined, right? Things that we feel like we don't have a choice about. Where does all of that plug in and how does our actual genetic makeup figure into this?
Great question. First, DNA is not your destiny. It is a blueprint only. Epigenetics, the things that we do, our stress, our diet, our exercise, the things that express those genes, we can turn off bad genes and turn on good ones. That's called epigenetics, and we're in control of that. Now, there are some severe genetic disorders that people are born with, and those children, we know that's just something we haven't figured out yet, although they're working on CRISPR technology to edit those genes. But for everybody else, just because your parents had this or somebody had this, you can't say, I'm going down the same path, might as well. I'm overweight and I'm going to be just like my mother. If you're eating the same and not exercising the same, then yes, you probably will go down the same pathway. But the good news is epigenetics, and that DNA is not your destiny. It's just a blueprint. We're about to release it. It's called Symphony of the Cells. It's a meditation, and it's about a guided visualization of your cells traveling through your body to the areas where they need to and creating healing, because that blueprint, that grid through your body, that's the DNA. But let's send the good cells there to turn on and turn off those light switches. So that, people say my parents had diabetes. But that does not mean you have to. We can definitely get around it.
I feel that's very empowering but to know that we have that kind of option in our lives to make those changes and impact that.
Yeah.
And you speak often about the mitochondria as well, because that's, of course, involved in a lot of different diseases, health, illnesses all across the board that's involved. How does that plug into everything, and why is that important? And maybe let our listeners know what that is, because I don't know if everybody will know what mitochondria is.
Yeah, unless you remember your biology class from whatever. Those mitochondria are tiny little engines in most cells of our body. They create ATP. That's the energy. Now, they do far more than that. They take the food you eat and the oxygen you breathe and the light you're exposed to. That's why sunlight is important for mitochondria. All these things that we hear about, all of that is important for these mitochondria to turn those into energy. And that's what you think with, you move with, what you live with. And when I talk about the body's inner pharmacy, it's really activating that mitochondrial health. How do we keep these powerhouses healthy? And they are the guardians, really, of survival. When they feel safe, they produce energy generously, like we're talking about. But if they sense danger, that's emotional, physical, rational, they shut down into protection mode, like we're talking about. Then they can't do that. So here's the thing. Mitochondria respond to our inner world. They don't just react to food, oxygen, and light. So your thoughts, your beliefs, the environment, the people you're around, the level of love and safety you have around that. That's what activates the mitochondria. And as many spiritual traditions talk about, energy is life. And biologically, energy is the mitochondria. And in cancer, there's a group of us, about 80 researchers and physicians that work with metabolic therapies for cancer. That's hyperbaric oxygen, ketogenic diets, and repurposed drugs, things that we're still studying. But those are targeting mitochondrial health. And here's the big picture. Most cancer, probably only 5 to 10% of cancers are genetic. Only 5 to 10% at most. So if it's not a genetic disease, why is every chemotherapy, every medication, every treatment gained about that? All the research money's going into DNA and genetics. Now, there's a piece to learn there, what treatments might work best on that cancer cell. But what caused the cancer? Why is the cancer there? We believe it's a mitochondrial damage to that mitochondria, and that happens from antibiotics, stress, all kinds of things damage mitochondria. But when the mitochondria is damaged, that cell can't respirate. It can't breathe properly. When it can't, that's when DNA damage happens, and that leads to cancer. So we are all about targeting the mitochondria. And another interesting thing is that all the mitochondria come from your mother's line, from your mother. All the patriarchal mitochondria are destroyed during fertilization. So everything in the mitochondria signals cell repair. It's not just a making energy mechanism. No, it is a director. It tells cell death for cancer. It does so many things. It's like the mothership of direction for our body. And it causes all these chronic degenerative diseases. And it's interesting that the mitochondria came from the mother. And if we look at mitochondrial societies, let's work together, communal. If we do this, how will it affect the whole? That's exactly the way the mitochondria works inside our cells. So it's a beautiful comparison of knowing that light, sunlight, emotion, and our human potential. The mitochondria it really responds to everything that what we're talking about, the epigenetic pieces. And that's why it's important. When cancer patients come to me, I'm looking at their environment on all those pillars that we're talking about, but looking a lot deeper than that. But we're in charge of a lot of it. We are.
Yeah, I find this so fascinating. And it feels like the mitochondria are expressing this collaborative versus competitive kind of.
Exactly. And that's been proven biologically. We watch how they work under microscopes. So we watch how they communicate. They are a matriarchal, just like matriarchal societies in the day, right? There are less wars, this and that. Let's try to collaborate. They're light eaters. They create ATP when we're told to stay out of the sunlight. No, we need it for vitamin D, but we really need it for mitochondria. They're energy engines, and they are threat detectors. They are threat detectors, and we need to take care of them. And that's all the things that we're talking about today.
Yeah, absolutely. So everybody eat clean, get your sleep, go outside and move, be in the sunlight.
You got it. It's the basics.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like those 7 pillars. Whenever I see low numbers, then those are the kinds of things we're talking about within the pillars. Now, I'm looking deeply scientifically with research, with medical, and I'm seeing if there's other things, viruses on board. I'm looking for those things. But I will tell you, the things that we're really mostly in charge of are the things that we're talking about. And it's the basics. It's the basics. So the metabolic theory of cancer, you will be hearing more about it. We've got a huge stone to roll up the hill because every scientific study, the drugs, the whole model is built around DNA and genetics with cancer. And it's not a genetic disease for the most part. It is not. So it's not broken DNA. And we know over the past decade with Dr. Tom Seyfried, Dr. D'Agostino, we know that it's the vast majority are metabolic. And that's not just cancer, heart disease, diabetes, you name a chronic degenerative disease, it's damage to the mitochondria. They are metabolic diseases. So we're learning more. And the good news is the more we learn that these basics are super important. Good food, good people, good community.
Yeah.
Less stress, those basics. And we're like, is that medicine? No, give me a pill. There's no pill stronger than any of that.
Yeah. and things that we can all do. This is the important part. We can all start on that and start addressing these pillars in various ways. And I feel this is actually almost a bit of a paradigm shift from going to a disease model to really an empowering model for people who are experiencing illnesses, and even on the side of prevention, which wouldn't it be much better if we can actually prevent a lot of these things from rolling out, because we are doing all the basics so much easier on our bodies, on our health, on our mental health.
And easier on physicians.
Yes.
Come to me with prevention. That's a piece. Okay, I'll look and say, okay, here's the things. We look at that. Now, what do I rely on? Your 7 pillars. How do you feel? How are you doing? Okay, great. That's so much easier. When I get a stage 4 cancer, that's far harder to work with than a stage 1. Stage 1, I'm like, okay, we got a really good shot here, 1 and 2. 3s and 4s, we're having to work a lot harder. But to your point, Petra, is that we wait until there's a signal that you can't ignore anymore. And at that point, sometimes it's much harder to work with. Listen now. Look at your scores now and pay attention because your body is telling you. And if you can't figure it out, you try the things that are normal. Again, don't stack a bunch of supplements. Don't go do all this crazy stuff, but do the basics that you know that you could be doing better. And if it doesn't get better, get with somebody that you trust, a physician, somebody that really understands your body and gives you good advice, not just scrolling and trying to find the next thing, because people have died from cold plunges, peptides and stem cells. We're concerned with cancer markers with those. So all this newest, latest, greatest stuff that sounds really cool, we're concerned. Now, some of it is going to be some of our best medicine, but we don't know enough yet. My opinion, we do not know enough yet about a lot of this. And until we do, me being a cancer physician and researcher, it's not worth the risk. Hoping it might add some years to your life. It may add some years to the cancer as well. So we have to be careful.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, especially when we do know a lot of the basic pieces that go in and that we can do now. So yeah, I appreciate that. And thank you for sharing all of this insight. And you have a very exciting project coming up as well that I think our listeners will be really interested in at the end of January, you were telling me. So what's that all about?
Yeah, for years, I've had patients say, Dr. Worden, I want a one-on-one. There's times that they need to be one-on-one with me or another physician, but they've said, I want to ask you about, I don't know, what laundry detergent is clean, or what's the latest and greatest in medicine for this that we can trust. And so I finally said, okay. So I'm going to do monthly Q&A. There'll be 2 groups. One will be specifically, we're focusing on cancer. The other one will be everybody else that says, I want to learn. What's the latest, what's real, what's not, and that they could put together their own plans. So I have 2 circles and I'm excited. It'll be a monthly Q&A. I'll pick a topic and talk about it, bring the latest. And then I'm going to just say, okay, ask me your questions, because that's what they've really been wanting. Let me just ask her about this and this. And that's fun and exciting. So I'm excited to kick that off. That's coming at the end of the month. A lot of work is you're doing a podcast and it's, so much work, but we're passionate about doing it. And finally, I told my patients, I said, okay. And I told a few, and now it's doing quite well on the sign up. I'll tell you that. And it saves them money. They're not having to pay me by the hour. They're really saving a lot of money and getting their questions answered. So I'm happy to do it and excited to start that.
Sounds so valuable, and I look forward to that. So I think by this time this episode airs, you'll probably already be going strong on that.
Yeah.
We will
Truth in Medicine movement. It's about the truth in medicine movement. It's about, let's call out some of the misinformation and what is the latest that you might want to think about utilizing in your life.
Yeah, wonderful. And do you have any other resources, any programs, services, or anything else that you'd like to point our listeners to? I feel that at this point, they're probably very curious about their health.
What I would say,
looking to connect.
If they've got a challenge that no other physicians have been able to figure out, I still will take on a few patients for that. I'm a good diagnostician. I like that. I like trying to find the root of the problem. So those, and then cancer, of course, and if they have neurological disease, Parkinson's and all, they want guidance in these metabolic therapies I'm talking about from a scientist, researcher, and a physician that I can give them the latest, but also guide them in that. If they want, they can call the office or email. Let me just give the email is info@drworden, drworden.com, or call the office if you're in the States, 480-588-2233. And for your listeners, tell them that make sure they say they're coming from your podcast, and I'll give them a free, as long as I can't give them a free 10-minute. Am I somebody you need to see, or is there somebody or a type of person that I think would be helpful for you? I don't need more patients, but I will take those that I think can't get the help somewhere else. But if I know they can, I'll be helping them know where they can go and get guidance, right? And they can listen to the podcast with Les and I when we start that. And then I'll have my show called Health Hot Seat. And that is a debate format. Here's conventional medicine, here's alternative. And I'm in the middle. That's where I've always sat. I'm the bridge between them. And that's going to be a debate format. That's going to be fun. That'll be coming up on a network. And then you can hear both sides at once with me moderating it, because I'm licensed in both. And I know the strengths and the weaknesses on both sides. And that'll be fun because we need education. And then we need enlightenment. Hear it, listen to it, say, that one sounds good to me. I don't want to do that one. Choose, and then do something. Do something for your health. That's where I come in, is that it's really all up to you eventually anyway.
Wow. Thank you for sharing all of those resources. I feel there is so much amazing things coming up for our listeners as well to tap into. And thank you for your generosity in offering to support our listeners a little bit in finding their path and finding out if there is a resource for them, if they're completely stuck, or if you might be able to point them somewhere. It's very generous. And we will be linking to all of Dr. Worden's offerings in the show notes as well. So be sure to check there on how you can connect with her. We'll put the phone number there too in the email so you can reach out. And of course, there'll be a lot of different formats becoming available in the next few months that you can tune into as well, with different podcasts and shows and Q&As. So there'll be a lot of resources available to look after your own health.
That's right. Patrick, and I leave them with one more thing I think is important.
Absolutely.
Is that a lot of people are looking for supplements. They're buying all this stuff. They're spending a lot of money. They're taking it, not getting better. Or here's something you should always ask. Anything that you're putting into your body on a daily basis, you need to ask for a certificate of analysis from the manufacturer. It's on the bottle. Show me that you tested this bottle, not a bottle a month ago or a year ago, raw materials that came in. When we test for what we've got, it's the end capsule, because they could have had good raw materials sitting there. The wait a year, put it in a capsule, and then there's mold and bacteria and all this stuff. But it looked okay at the beginning. I go far beyond it, but at least if you're not going to get your supplements from some person or people that really go to that extent, ask for a certificate of analysis. If they say nope, then you move on to the next manufacturer, because it's inexpensive. They should be doing it. And maybe I will say the statistics show 70%. I think it's far higher than that. 70% of supplements are adulterated, mislabeled, or they've got bacteria, molds. I would rather you be on nothing than on a poor quality supplement. So do your homework. Don't be a bio slacker, right? Be a biohacker, but don't be a bio slacker. Do your homework. Make sure you're getting it from, and just because it has a doctor's name on it does not mean it's been tested. You must ask yourself, unless your doctor tells you that they do all these steps for you.
Yeah, that's really valuable insight. And thank you for sharing that. So I think there's this point also where we just really have to become aware, as you just mentioned, that not all things are equal. Not all things are equally made or equally good for our bodies. So
that's right.
Be discerning in what you put into your body and check that. So thank you for sharing that.
Dare to doubt your doctors, doubt the system, doubt the supplements, doubt the food quality. Dare to doubt, because this is your body, and you should be asking questions or gathering people around you that you listen to that are helping you through that. We need to be fearless enough to be asking these questions and challenging the systems, because for the most part, they're broken.
Yeah.
They are broken.
Yeah. And unfortunately, we can see that, I think, for a lot of the things that are happening in mental health and chronic pain and different diseases that are happening. So
mental health is one of the saddest things that I see out there. The system is completely broken and they have no support system. It's terrible. It's got to change.
Yeah.
But how that changes is education and a movement. It's that people say, we're not going to do it this way anymore. And so it's coming. There's enough people.
Yeah.
We've got enough voices
starting
now.
to advocate for ourselves.
That's right.
And our bodies.
Right.
Yeah.
You have to be an advocate for yourself and your loved ones. No one else will. And you go into the hospital, you better have an advocate there all day, all night. You don't leave someone alone, and you ask when they walk in the room, what is that for? Is it for this patient? And you don't worry if they think that, you're offending them. No, you must ask. I can't tell you the number of times saved lives by being that advocate and asking a question that would have killed that patient if somebody hadn't asked, or they called me and said, Dr. Worden, what about this? Or I was there. Got to ask. Don't be afraid. Be fearless. It's your health, your life.
After all, that's your life. Exactly. And thank you for being part of this change. I feel that as patients and as people, when we get ill, we often feel like we don't have the right to ask those questions because we're intrusive or we're being confrontational. So it's really empowering that you're saying that.
You do not have to have
that permission.
Right. You do not have to have a stethoscope around your neck or a diploma on the wall to use your intuition and say, that doesn't seem right. Can you please explain it to me again in a way that I can understand? We use medical language, and it's no, talk to me the way that I need to be talked to. I do a whole talk. One of my speeches is Dare to Doubt, and it's about being this advocate because you have to. And if doctors and nurses are offended by it, then it's time for them to retire. They need to say, oh, good, here's a person that's into their health and wellness, and they're part of the team. And then it will be a team effort. It won't be confrontational. It will be, good question. I'm glad you asked. I saved my mother's life that way. It's a whole talk that I do. My first semester in medical school, because I stood up to the white coats and I was a first semester medical student. And they said, you're a student. And I said, and this is my mother. And I asked the questions, and 3 times saved her by daring to doubt, even though I didn't have my white coat at that point.
Yeah.
You don't have to. You do not have to. Use your intuition. It doesn't sound right or feel right. Ask the questions.
So powerful. And we will leave our listeners with that. And thank you, Dr. Worden, for joining me today and sharing all this insight and this wisdom. I feel this has been such a powerful time that we have talked about this. I've learned so much. I hope our listeners have too. A lot of things that they can apply now in their own lives and move forward from there. And I'm absolutely grateful for this time that you have given us, all of the things you shared. So thank you for being here today and joining me in the show.
Thank you, Petra. It's amazing. Thank you.
Absolutely. And thank you, everyone, for tuning in today, for listening in. And I hope you take really good care of yourselves going forward. There are a lot of different things that you can do now that Dr. Worden talked about. So take care of yourselves and be well. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to listen in. If you enjoy the Jōrni Podcast, please support us by subscribing, sharing on social media, and leaving us a review. We appreciate you. And you can find more of The Jōrni on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and our website, thejorni.com. Sending you love and courage, and see you next time.